I hereby call to order this special meeting of the Board of Education of the Tuxedo Union Free on this Wednesday, April 12th, 2023. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now do a roll call.
Okay, Joe Ricard,
Here.
Alyssa Horneff,
Here.
Kimberly Breland,
Here.
Dan Castricone,
Here.
Bill Givens,
Here.
Gary Hefner, Heather Kidda.
Here.
A quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Then we'll move to the consent agenda. There are 3 items. Though this is specifically a budget meeting. We have added some business items at the request of our superintendent. And rather doing it the normal way, maybe we can take each one individually.
Sure.
There's 3 items.
Do you want me to talk about them? You just want to?
No, I'd like you to talk about them. Sure.
No problem.
It's all right with the rest of the board.
Okay, so we have, let's see, make sure, can everybody hear me? Okay. Good evening, everyone. We have 3 items actually 4 items on the agenda. One of them is a FEMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, but we don't need to talk about that. And we have 2 personnel agenda items. We will be appointing a new superintendent secretary and a district clerk. And that is Mrs. Christine Murphy Colgan. We've gone through quite a process looking for the right person for the position. We've interviewed quite a few people, and we've done background checks, and Mrs. Murphy Colgan has quite a extensive background in school districts. She's from the Warwick Valley School District, where she was a secretary to an assistant principal, to a principal, to the assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, to the curriculum and instruction person, and now to the assistant superintendent for PPS. And who knows, pretty soon she'll be the superintendent herself. So she's got quite a background, and we're happy to. She's gone through a background check, and because she's also going to be the board clerk, the board president wanted her as well. So I don't know if you have words about that, Joe?
I would. I did have an opportunity to talk to the 2 finalists. I know I was very interested in the district clerk, but I was also in the secretarial position because that's a key position in our school. It's hats, so I was very impressed with her. She's very professional, terrific background, and we're looking forward to bringing her aboard. So, assuming everybody votes for you, welcome. You want to take the next candidate?
Yep, and the next one is we're going to be appointing a new district treasurer starting July 1st. We have Mr. Anthony Kashara, and it's been a pleasure having Anthony. Anthony came on a 1-year basis, and he'll be going back to his normal business and all that June 30th, so we thank him for coming. He's done, I think, a yeoman's job here in the year that he's been here. So the district treasurer is going to be Mr. Brian Weir. Brian is got a number of years in business. Currently, he's the treasurer at Highland Falls, Fort Montgomery School District. And prior to that, he worked for a firm called Anderson as a tax director, which is 1 level below being a partner. He's had excellent references. He's been a treasurer for a couple of years. He comes highly recommended also by a very esteemed colleague in Orange County. So we're excited to have him on board as well. So that'd be District Treasurer Brian Weir. He'll start July 1st.
Okay.
All right. And also, because he's going to be providing reports to the Board of Education, we also had the board president interview him as well. Do you want to make a few comments about that, Joe?
Yes. And with all due respect to Mr. Kashara, who's here did a yeoman's job this year, and really appreciate it. I know you're only contracted to work 2 days a week, but I know you did a lot more than 2 days. And but this gentleman absolutely knew every report, the ins and outs, had already developed, knew how important they were. Responsiveness to the board, which is what I was particularly interested in, and putting it in a way that we could understand and continue on from, the great work from Anthony. Again, we went through an entire year without having a full-time position here, and that's unheard of, on districts. And this is a gentleman that was on a contract. And so to have somebody in place, hopefully he'll be here for quite a while, will be good for the district. And again, thank you, Anthony, and your staff, because I know they were pulling together down there as well. So with that said, would you like to go to the third?
Sure. And the third item is for a transportation consultant agreement. This is the same transportation consultant that the board hired some years ago because it wanted to privatize the transportation program. So what we're trying to do is that consultant had done an RFP and successfully had gotten 4 large bidders to propose on the district. Eventually it was awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, but there was some time between. There was some turnover in the district as well. So there was a separate contract that was put on top of the the bid, and there are some terms in there that we're going to need some help negotiating with the contractor. So this transportation person is going to help us hopefully successfully negotiate, reducing some of those requirements in that contract. He's also helped us already last year. He helped us save almost $100,000 with Joanne Martin. He also helped the town rec department get transportation for this last summer program. He didn't do this for he did it for no cost. And he was also able to do it in such a way that our students got a free ride to school in the summer school program. They rode the buses that the town was providing for the summer rec program. And we think we need him for negotiating this contract term with our our contractor, Matt Buss. So the district had been very happy with him in the past. So I think it's very worthwhile. It's going to be pennies on the dollar, the savings that we're going to get from hiring this person.
And the fourth item?
Let's see. That's the FEMLA. And that is just a family medical leave for one of our, and I don't think we want to talk about that.
So let's do it this way. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I want to vote on the items individually, if that's okay with you.
Oh, I'm sorry, and there's a scorekeeper on there as well.
Well, why don't we ask the rest of the board, you want to take a vote on? I mean, you guys, give me a nod if you want to do it separately?
I mean, any board member should be able to pull individual items
Yeah, you
out
can.
of the consent agenda. I
So
want to vote on each one
So
individually.
you're essentially pulling them all out?
I don't know how else to do it.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take the first one. The district clerk and secretary?
Well, I want to vote separately on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm
the
saying-
secretary.
Yeah.
Great. I make a motion to approve her as the superintendent secretary.
I'll second that.
Is there a caveat on the district clerk, or you want to do it?
He wants to do that separately.
I want to do that separately, so we're going to have a discussion on this one or not, or?
Can we start with the
Well,
FMLA?
first of all-
Like, go in order?
What's that?
Can we just go in order?
Actually, what we should do first is a motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay?
So we're pulling all 4 out.
So a motion. Forgive me, Gary, there's also a scorekeeper, and we're hiring a certified nurse to ride on a bus.
Just nomenclature, I think I'm with Heather. The fourth that you spoke about was on the business agenda.
Correct.
So the consent agenda is the family leave, district.
Superintendent, secretary, treasurer, district clerk, scorekeeper, and certified
Yeah,
nurse.
even though it's under the business.
Right, I'm just saying, we're just kind of going out, we're jumping.
Yeah.
All right, let's stay in order. So Are we pulling everything out or just the personnel piece?
He wants to do the first one, which is the personnel. They want to do it individually.
Yeah,
So
so,
let's-
Family Leave Act is fine, make a motion to approve.
yeah, so this is what we're gonna do. We're pulling out, let me get the numbers right, so we get this, we do it correctly. We're gonna pull out,
There's only 3 in the consent agenda.
well, the business piece is part of it too, so. So we're gonna put, we have no number next to this. So the 3 positions, we're gonna pull, we're pulling out the district clerk / secretary,
The treasurer.
treasurer. Okay, I see it down. I see it. I'll see it, so we'll hold off on that.
Yep.
And so we're just pulling out the district clerk, school secretary, and the district
Treasurer, the scorekeeper, and the certified nurse. They want
Right.
separate votes on all of them.
Is that, you want to do that? So you want to do it on,
So taking it,
okay,
take it.
hold on a second. So we want to do it on Sandra McGrady and John Cernudo. Each one of those,
First, take a motion to amend.
well, we haven't pulled them out yet, so we don't have anything to amend.
That's what they want to do.
No, hold on a second. Let me just hear it from him.
Okay.
You want to pull out,
Here's what I'd like to do, Mr. President.
Right.
I'd like to have an individual vote on the district treasurer, the superintendent secretary, and the district clerk.
right,
I'm uninterested in separate votes for Mr. Sunudo and Ms. McGrady.
all right. So if we approve the agenda, they're approved.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the amended agenda,
So moved.
consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. All right, so now we're going to go back. Let's go pull out the first one, the district treasurer. Now, I want you to understand, this was sent to you guys a couple days ago. This is the first we're hearing that you may have a concern. So is this something new, or?
I think you're out of order, sir. We all have an opportunity here to speak at a meeting, and I plan to.
Okay, good, speak. I'm just surprised that you didn't speak up before. Why are you
I
doing it
did
here?
have a conversation with the superintendent before the meeting, if it's of any concern to
All right,
you.
good.
But here we go.
Go ahead.
First off, on the district treasurer, the concern that I had was that we were adding a person but not removing a consultant. As we moved along and you were able to explain to me that we were replacing Mr. Kuchera with this position, I'm excited about this. I'm happy to vote yes on Mr. Weir. I read his resume. I'm very pleased that this time I got the resume before the meeting, was able to look at it, and I want to express that in public at a public meeting, if that's okay with you.
Great. So you don't want to approve the district treasurer?
He does.
He does.
I just
Yes.
wanted to vote on it separately so I could talk about it.
Fine, okay, let's make a motion to approve the district treasurer. Do I have a
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
Or you have any other discussion?
No, motion.
Well, is there any other discussion? And I'll say, I'll make a motion to approve the district treasurer. Do I have a motion?
I make the motion.
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any, those opposed? No. All right, so all in favor. I'm assuming Alyssa, we didn't hear anything.
Yes.
All right, good. Oh, boy. All right, so we're going to go to the next one. Superintendent secretary. I'm a little cautious on this one. I think we may need to go to executive session because the job offer was for both positions.
Hmm?
So how do you, what's your view on this?
We can go into exec if you like, if you feel like the need to do it.
If we don't have the votes, or there's some questions?
Sure.
Well, why don't you explain?
Wait a minute, can I ask a question?
Sure.
It's not concerning the individual.
No.
It's concerning the two separate positions. So if somebody wants to speak about it, I think they should speak about it and put the concerns out there so that the
Then we
public
can vote on it.
understands
Good.
what's happening. And then we either vote that we combine the two positions, or we either vote, this is what we're going to offer, and this is what we're going to offer,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just a little blindsided because this should have been.
Right, no, I
It should have
get
been
it.
raised a little bit
I'm just
before.
saying,
I don't think
That's
your
how I'm
place to tell us
understanding
what
it.
should or shouldn't have been raised.
No, it's common courtesy. That's what
No,
it is.
we get the agenda, we look at it,
All
we
right,
come
but
to
it-
a
but-
meeting, we talk in public.
Because this is grandstanding, and this is not, this is something we work as
I'm
a team.
sorry if you can't understand the
Well,
agenda
listen-
that you put together,
No, I
and how
understand.
this works.
You
I
was,
am.
you was sent it, 3 days ago. And you're asking questions about why we combined it. That question should have been asked.
Assented to what? I don't assent in private, we vote in public.
But you're asking questions, all right, hold on. We'll explain it to you. Let's make it out to the
Joe,
public.
trust me, there's nothing here that you could explain to me that I don't already know. If you want to grandstand for public, great. I suggest you just pull the next item on the agenda. We make a motion, we talk about it, and we move on
All
to
right,
the
good.
next thing.
Let's go. So on the first one, for the superintendent's secretary. See, I don't know how to do this because the offer was for the combined job.
She'll need to see how it comes out.
Well, right, and then that person can decide if they want to take the job or not.
Okay, all right. Do I have a motion to approve Christine Murphy Colgan for the superintendent secretary position? Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
No,
Discussion?
all
Discussion, I'm sorry. Discussion.
Sure, I'll go. I looked at Ms. Murphy Colgan's resume. She seems well qualified. I think it's within the prerogative of the superintendent to select a secretary with our approval. She looks certainly qualified. Looking forward to her working in the district and wish her a lot of luck.
Good. All right. Any other discussion? We have, do I have a motion to approve her for this position?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. Good. Now let's take the next one, district clerk. We're going to be talking about approving Christine for that position. Now, we have discussion. Go ahead.
First, you have a motion. Motion for discussion. I'll make that.
I'll second it.
Second. Okay, then
Wait,
we'll have the
Go
discussion.
ahead, go.
I have a philosophical issue with having the superintendent's secretary also be the district clerk. We've seen that in the past. Some situations it has worked tremendously. Others, it hasn't worked well at all. I would like to try a situation where we had a separate district clerk from the secretary. I think there's an inherent conflict in the two positions. I know that we had searched or started to do a search for a separate clerk. I would have preferred us to actually try to, and I had suggested this in the past, try to raise the salary for the district clerk or find someone else in the school district who wasn't the superintendent's secretary to be the district clerk. And, so I'm going to vote no on having the same person as the district clerk.
Okay, any other discussion?
I mean, I can add that I think it is a difficult position, but we're also a very small school district. So what has happened is that we have tried to look for a district clerk, and nobody wants to grab it for that amount of money. And we don't want to have the job up there, part-time job, for $40,000 or $50,000. So how else are we going to do it but combine it with another job within the district? I totally agree with you. I understand what you're saying, because what happens is, the job becomes muddled into each other, the secretary and the district clerk. But I think we really, at this point, have no other way to go, because nobody's taking it for the amount of money that we're offering out there. And I don't think we're going to raise it to $40,000 or $50,000 for a part-time job.
I kind of concur with both of you, but I don't think when we discussed the philosophical idea of one person sharing both positions, when we spoke about perhaps increasing the salary, in my mind, we weren't going that high. So I think there's still steps between the current salary and the numbers you just, talked about. So I'm not sure if we
But I
could
think
find
we
somebody
offered
more.
$20,000 at one point for that job, and nobody was taking it.
So that's kind of the question. I think, I don't want to speak for everybody, but my memory recalls everybody having some degree of concern about the board. As a board, we only have one person that person reports directly to us. I think to different degrees, we all agreed, and past boards too, that that's a conflict. So the question is, are we to the point where all other solutions have been foregone, that we have no other choice? That's, in my mind,
I mean,
I'm not sure we've reached that.
It's only an issue if we end up going to war with Jeff, right? I mean, I don't know if there's a way to mitigate that in the heat of battle.
Right, and I don't expect that, but that's,
We'll have no
really- Right,
wars.
that's really the issue. If you want to go after your superintendent, it's a way of blocking out, the secretary from the, and that's really what this is all about.
And could we, like, say something did happen, say all of a sudden, we're having a war with Mr.
Superintendent.
White,
Or,
the
yeah, or
superintendent.
whoever it is.
Can we then go back and modify that position in a year from now? Why? They're hired
no,
at a
it's
year
just civil
contract.
We can only change the district clerk on June 30th. Once
Yeah,
we
so from a
appoint-
year from now.
Well, we've got one day a year where we can change district clerks. So, and I don't agree that the premise that the only time it would matter is if we went to war with Jeff. I think knowing that we were getting independent information could prevent a war with the superintendent, having someone who was independent right up front. So, we've been through this where we've looked at changing district clerks midstream, and it's next to impossible to do.
I just think it's hard to even find a district clerk that's willing to come down and then also sit in all the meetings and all these hours. I mean, I don't understand how he's doing it.
Well, he's not, he's got
You know.
Jeff and he's got Ed Murnoff doing it.
I'm
True.
just saying that,
And
I'm
probably,
very
Roy,
impressed that
too.
he's.
Would you like a couple of additional 2 cents in there?
Yeah, go ahead.
So first off, I have no intention of going to war with the board at all. That's not going to happen. Secondly, we had Margaret Monkel, is a consultant to the school district and was the past president of the New York State Personnel Association. She's got a lot of experience, and she met with all of you and expressed to you that it's not uncommon to have this combination. And in Orange County, it's a very common occurrence. We did we did post, I think, Ed, for the $15,000, correct? And there were no takers, right? And we tried to torture Matt, but he said, no, I'm not doing this. There was nobody else internally who wanted the job. So it leaves us where we are. I think we have a fabulous candidate right here. I think this is going to work out very well. So my recommendation, as is here, is that we move forward with Mrs. Christine Murphy Colgan.
Okay, so we do it.
Does the contract reflect the fact that this position comes up again on June 30th? Or is the contract that you wrote for a year? Does that bind us into this school year, or does it extend?
The contracts for the superintendent secretary and management and confidential employees have an annual contract. However, she will have, the district clerk is a separate thing, and that's, education law deals specifically with that. That's a one-year appointment for the clerk, and that's education law. Well, you've got education law, which would supersede any contract, and then you have the one contract, which is for the superintendent secretary. Yep. All right?
if I was to summarize, I think what it comes down to is, again, no one's looking to have a battle, but as an attorney, I'm concerned about conflicts.
Mhm.
So what price are we willing to pay to have a conflict-free, independent person that reports to us? Because that's the only person that, regardless of who you like and what you expect, because to be honest, since I've been on the board, a half a dozen things that I was told would never happen have happened. So hoping and
Hopefully,
preparing.
those were only good things, Gary. But, so far, like I said, we've had nobody internally that wants the position. We did post the job,
But we
the
didn't-
job
but we haven't
separately.
posted at 25 or 30.
We did,
No,
but the other thing is, in a few minutes, you're gonna be squeezing me to give you a budget that's affordable to the community. So these are kind of in conflict. I'll have to cut something else to add
I was
to
gonna raise
this.
that.
What have we offered then? Because I keep hearing no one's 15, but now I'm just hearing we may have offered 25?
No, I believe it was 15. I don't remember.
Right, I
Mr.
thought it was only
Merhoff, do you?
15.
It was
I don't wanna pay
15, I
50
think.
Either.
No, 1.5.
1.5.
1.5.
But Kimberly said 5.0, but my question is it valuable?
I don't know that you'd
Having
want to
been a
pay
person for-
somebody for this amount of work, $50,000. It's quite a bit of pay for that.
But the
You're missing
question
my
is,
point. I
what,
agree.
what is the
Would
dollar
16,000
amount?
do it? Would 17.5 do it? Would 20 do it?
I mean, I was gonna
I'm willing to
raise,
pay $3,000 more. I'm not willing to pay
Yeah, I don't
30,000
think,
more.
I don't think that's going to do it. And I think Margaret mentioned that to everybody when we had that discussion.
Yeah, we've been at this over a year. We all realize we need a district clerk, you know, when it's dedicated. You got to remember, the person we're hiring here is coming with the understanding she's leaving a very good job, and this gives her an opportunity to advance her career and earn more money. And also, you got to remember, she's had an executive secretary position, so you're assuming that she couldn't keep a confidentiality if we needed it. The other thing is the last three superintendents by which we removed, the district removed, they were able to do it with the district clerk reporting into the superintendent. So there wasn't an issue removing the superintendent. But I also want to build on Kimberly's thing. We need great talent here, and this is an A player. We can attract her with both jobs. You know, when it's confidential, if you think you have something, then you have to ask her to keep it confidential. But the advantage in a small district, I checked around, Jeff was correct. Most of the districts around here have them reporting, and they're much bigger districts with big staffs. And they have-
Warwick Valley, for example, I believe, right, Christine? Warwick Valley, the superintendent secretary is
And
also,
Minnesink.
and they have not, and Minnesink, and they have not had any problems like is being mentioned here. It's been,
To be clear, it's not a
smooth.
reflection of the candidate.
Yeah.
And it's not a reflection on our attempt to find an independent.
But don't you understand what we're doing here?
As an attorney, though, it's like me saying, well, today I'm gonna be the prosecutor and the defense attorney. Like, trust me, trust got nothing to do with it. There's either a conflict or there isn't.
But don't
I
you
just can't-
understand what we're doing? We're trying to attract an A player. We're trying to make
I
it,
understand all that. I just can't-
we try financially to make it attractive, and we're board sitting here talking about, you know, what do we want to
Yeah,
do
hey,
if we
it's
want to fire the superintendent?
it's the board's responsibility to
Yeah.
make sure this works and the conflict
That's
doesn't
correct.
present itself. If we're all doing our job, hopefully it doesn't.
That's
I
right.
am worried about the budget side of it. We're sitting in the budget committee meetings. We gotta squeeze this budget. It's tight, and I don't wanna add another 40 grand or whatever it's gonna take. So I get the conflict. I am deeply worried about it. It's not a conflict today. Tomorrow, we could all regret this, but we gotta balance it.
Yeah, and it's also taken almost 8 months for him to find a secretary at this point that he needed
Yeah.
last August, you know? And people aren't even taking jobs at McDonald's anymore. So, you know, okay.
I just want to say one more thing, if that's, before we vote. It's just that the president has characterized my argument as having something to do with my opinion on whether or not Mrs. Murphy could keep something confidential. And it absolutely does not. I've looked at her resume. She looks like an all-star. I'm excited to have her in the district.
Great.
I think she'll do a terrific job. I just philosophically do not think that these two positions should be attached based on the experience that we've had here in the district.
Right, okay. We hear you. It's Colgan Murphy, Murphy Colgan, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
All right, with that said, any other discussion?
Yeah, just if, we do have a lawyer that is somebody that we can speak to if we have any sort of conflict. So I think that we'd be employing Mr. Shaw
Right.
should we have a conflict that needed an additional support.
And that's exactly what happened with our last superintendent. It was never about the district clerk. It was always about our attorney.
And that's your mitigating control.
Right. And so with that said, any other discussion? Alyssa, anything you want to say?
No, I agree that it's a tough position to be in, but I think we just gotta keep process and vet the person, and she seems good, and yeah, it's a tough thing, but I agree, but it's
Okay.
moving forward.
All right. I'd like to
Christine, we
make-
didn't scare you off, did we? Good, 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 good. I'm getting a little nervous up here myself.
Don't get nervous, Christine, this is, we want you. So with that said, do I have a motion to approve the appointment of Ms. Christine Murphy Colgan for the district clerk job?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, we have one opposition, Dan Castrofone.
And one abstention.
You have a
You're
conflict?
abstaining.
Based
I'm
on that.
abstaining.
I thought abstain, when you abstain, it has to be because of a conflict.
No,
I'm not recusing myself.
no, he's just
That's all right.
abstaining.
There's no rule?
I don't think so, I think it's all right.
I was under the impression when I read the protocol that you could only abstain when you had a conflict. But,
Well, he is having a conflict
I'm
in
having
his brain,
Yeah.
so
I meant a
that's
conflict
why.
of-
Philosophical conflict.
I meant the conflict of interest. All right, you want to accept the abstain, then fine. We have one abstain
And what
and
about
one
Melissa?
disappointed, really.
Melissa?
Okay. So,
That's an aye.
Okay.
okay, that's it. Well, welcome, Christine. You'll do a great job.
Wait, so now do we have to vote on the scorekeeper and the certified nurse, or that was approved?
That's right, we pulled that.
Okay, and then do we have to go back and do the family leave and vote on that?
I
No,
think we
that
voted
was
on the
approved?
consent.
No, it's just a business agenda.
So now we're up to the transportation?
Correct.
Okay.
You want to start with this, or did we discuss?
Yep, I
it?
already made a discussion about it, unless you guys want to talk.
I'd like to make a motion, we have a discussion on this, or does someone want to have a discussion?
I'll approve a motion, second a motion to discuss.
All right, go ahead. Wait,
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Go ahead.
So we're up to a motion to discuss, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This particular gentleman that we want to hire as a consultant sang the praises of Joanne Martin's capabilities 2 years ago when we brought him in the first time. As, you know, Miss Martin was the wisest, smartest bus router person that he had ever seen or met. And I'm concerned about adding another consultant to the top of a list that's already pretty consultant heavy between the cafeteria and other areas.
Right.
I'm not sure that we shouldn't try to move on this without spending another $10,000 on a bus consultant.
Okay. Can I speak?
Sure.
Let me talk about this one, because I was intimately involved, as you know. This proposition to outsource our buses was
You and me.
knocked down twice. And if you remember.
You and me.
Yep, you read the RFP. This is not about bus routing. This is a very technical document. Just the control factors, you know, how we control and make sure that the bus company contract is very sophisticated, very financially driven, and that's not within the done this. There are opportunities as perhaps another 100 that squeeze this contract. I shouldn't be talking about this publicly. Lynn Martin is not what she does. She's the liaison to the bus company, which we need her every single day. She approves every bus driver that comes in. She steps up when we need a bus driver, and she has now 3 direct reports who are full-time bus drivers who work for the bus company. So let me just talk about consultants, because and I'm speaking as an individual, I never approve a consultant unless we're going to save money, get a super efficiency, or in the case of some of the, Anthony and others, where we bring them in on a contract. They're not permanent hires, and there's no benefits, and there's no, pension liability. So
Well, that's a key point, because I went out the other night and somebody was complaining
I have
that
to-
we have a lot of consultants.
Right.
And so it's important to explain that when you're not hiring somebody full-time, then they're not getting the insurance. They're not getting the sick
Right.
days, so all the whole package that comes
We
along
have two
with it.
contractors right now who are with us, three, or former deputy superintendents.
I know, but don't
not
tell them
full-time
because
workers.
they're sitting in the audience
Right.
and it's not nice.
So let me just also bring to the point. We want to focus on getting instruction. We want teachers in the classroom. We don't want to we don't want to have discussions about pulling things out of the instruction. I think everybody in the district needs to understand this. When we hire full-time people with benefits, especially in administration, the beauty of our structure is we have superintendent and two principals. That's it. We don't have any assistant principals, and if we unhappy with the contract and they're not delivering, then we leave. We had an issue last meeting. There was an accusation made that the food person, and by the way, last year, our food business, we had to spend $50,000 out of our budget that could have gone for instruction because we lost $50,000 in our food program. Oh, by the way, the kids don't eat the food. I sit on the board here and I'm going, whoa, what's going on here? We bring in a consultant, we get a great person, he needs to be trained, as our new business manager also needs to be trained. And we want to get to the thing where it's not going to cost us any money. As the audit committee knows that we had to put $10,000 out of the budget into the food program. We don't want that. We want zero. And that's why we have consultants in here to make sure that we have good programs. So if there's a feeling that the board here is approving consultants, it's really about making this budget work so that we get the kind of instruction, we get the reading teachers, we get the math teachers, specialists, and the people that we need to do the job. So with that said,
Let me just add, we're also getting A players. These folks that we're bringing in here are just tremendous. They've got a lot of experience and they're very successful or have been successful in their careers. I just want to say that
well, one last
this
thing.
is
Could you set the record straight on the woman who does the consultant for the food? Because somebody said to me, she's not doing the menus. Well, then we find out she was doing the menus.
She does do the menus, and what we have to do, and I'm going to lay this out for the board so that we can understand it a little more clearly. Most districts have a school food service director who oversees the entire food service program, and then in each kitchen, they have what's called a cook manager. So we hired a cook manager. He's outstanding. The kids are loving the food. They're eating now, which means that they're focusing on their schoolwork. So instead of hiring a school food service director, and some of these folks, they make six-figure salaries, we're getting somebody at a fraction of that cost who's overseeing the whole program, dealing with the state, doing the ordering, doing a number of things. We've got a good cook manager. Hopefully, we can train this gentleman in time to serve, as we're asking Mrs. Murphy-Colgan, to be both the cook manager and the food service director. Hopefully, we can get him to that point at some point. But this isn't his background. He is a chef, but we have to train him in these things. So we're a unique situation. We're a small district, and we're getting great consultants in here. But what I do want to say is, Dan, hiring this consultant
This is for the bus contract.
Yeah. We love Joanne Martin, and Joanne Martin is fantastic. But if you recall, you still hired the contractor back then because you recognized at that time there's a difference between in-district transportation and contract transportation. He was brought in because he's an expert in contract transportation. He knows how to put together contract RFPs and bids. And that's what we're bringing him in for, is to help us manage that, help us negotiate it. This is absolutely no negative connotation on Joanne Martin. She's doing a fantastic job.
Right.
But for 30 years, she did in-district transportation, and now she's learning contract transportation. So it's not I don't want anyone to think that this is in any way disparaging on Joanne Martin, because that's not what it's intended to do.
When is the contract up?
This contract, you have a copy right there, right?
But did it say we were in our second year of 3?
Oh, are you talking about the Matt Bus contract? The Matt Bus contract will expire next June, but we have an option to extend for 2 years. But again, there was a
So
bid.
we're
there
not
was a
really in
bid-
negotiations.
No, we are. No, we are. Because there was a bid spec done, and that should have been the contract, and that should have been it. But there was, as I said before, there was turnover here at the district. The contract transportation, I believe, was supposed to start in February, of that year, and it was delayed significantly. And there were other people handling the award of the bid, and additional contract terms were added after the fact. And we are trying to negotiate those down to favor the district. So we are negotiating some things right now.
I saw him take, the contract that we actually used was his template. He worked with our lawyers to put all the contingencies in there and all the accountability that we had to hold. There's no way that somebody in this district could do that. But again, Joanne Martin does a terrific job. All we get is praise and compliments from her, but that's not what she does. All right, with that, is there any other discussion? Because I'd like to make a motion to approve this contract. Do I have a motion?
I have a comment.
Okay, well, I'll back up. Say what you want.
I've also heard from constituents that we seem to have too many consultants. I am not certain what the right amount is, but we've had this discussion before, so I think it's relevant to tonight's vote. And it may not be for the public, it might be an executive session question, but what is the next possible consultant that's looming out there that you're worried about come September, come October, there's, another consultant and another consultant, and even if it saves money, the perception is something that concerns me, because if constituents thinks right or wrong, but if they think we have too many, that's a perception problem. We're not.
That's why we have to have
I
these
know,
discussions in
but
public.
then we need to make it clear and educate the public on, exactly what the consultants are being used for, or why they're being brought in, and why we are voting yes or no
And I
to
think
having those consultants.
I think we're doing that, but my question for
I know
Jeff
it's a
is-
perception, but I think a lot of things in this district are all perceptions. And that, we need to actually just start educating and start, globalizing what we're doing here and actually advertising all the great stuff that we have.
Agreed. But my question more specifically is pointed to you, Jeff. Perhaps in the next executive session, can you let us know what concerns you because of grants falling through, personnel issues, physical plant issues? Like, what is the next consultant or two or three that might be looming in our future, in our short-term future?
Sure, if you like, we
And I don't wanna
can,
put you
we
on the
can go
spot
over
now.
who we've had as well in the future. That's not a problem.
Why
And
don't
by the
we-
way, for next week,
That's a good thing, actually, for
Yeah.
the board to do. Why don't we just go through, maybe not next meeting, but the meeting after, or to go through all the consultants and see where we are with it. And there are some areas, quite frankly, that we have some
And
deficiencies,
some
that we may
consultants,
need a
they
consultant.
take money off, like, from what they save us.
that's a performance
right?
contract,
Like, we
exactly.
don't-
That's right.
We don't pay them, but they make whatever
Yeah,
they.
So, for example, next week, I was asked by the board to, get some survey information from the students about the rearranged schedule that everybody's excited about and the community all got behind. Because I remember when I got here, that was a huge part of contention. The teacher's contract couldn't be settled because of it, and we brought in a nationwide renowned gentleman, Dr. Cusin, and that was, again, a consultant, but again, it was a one-shot thing, and look at the result we got. We got a fantastic.
Well, I don't know, you haven't presented the report
You're going to
yet.
find out next
So,
Thursday. How's
okay,
that?
so
But
let's
that
finish
kind of,
with
that kind
this
of proves
vote.
my point, though. We need to currently review and
Sure.
and publicize
Absolutely.
the success.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
It's-
this
it's
sounds
been a-
great, but all I'm
Yeah.
gonna hear is another consultant.
Right.
We've morphed into consultants generally. I'm also interested.
Well, I think we have to
hear-
be careful with that, Dan. Like, we can't use anecdotes like that because then
What
it takes on
anecdotes?
a,
I just said we've
it-
just morphed
it-
into consultants generally.
it takes,
And
but
what I'd
it
like to
becomes a
know is
soundbite,
as
Dan.
we
It
come
becomes a
forward,
soundbite.
what the hires that we've done tonight, like we have 2 HR consultants, right? And the hires that we've done tonight, one of the HR consultants does a lot of administrative work in your office, right? So how will this affect, I want to see like an org chart.
Yeah.
For the folks that we've hired.
Not a
The
problem.
consultants, by my count, it looks like we've got 6 or 7 consultants on right now. I'd like to see how what we've done, the hires that we've made, the treasurer, the
Not a problem.
secretary, affects the consultants that we have.
Right.
Before we hire more of them.
I think we've agreed, Dan, that we're going to have a presentation at a board meeting of where we are with consultants.
Right, my point is, let's not, you know, make it a soundbite, oh, another consultant, and villainize them, because they're doing great work, they're saving the district tremendous amounts of money, and we are getting a tremendous result from them. So I think, you know, when we use, you know, sound bites, it kind of marginalizes the things that we're accomplishing.
Yeah.
And I think we're
I want
accomplishing
to
a
say
lot.
that I'm taking offense.
Why?
The concerns that I'm raising are legitimate and real. They are not sound bites. They're not intended for any purpose other than to express my position as a board member.
I didn't direct that at you. I was just told that constituents are complaining. So what I'm saying is when these things are being raised, you're personalizing it. I'm not.
Well,
You're
probably-
getting complaints, you're getting complaints.
You may feel bad because last meeting you brought up something that was inaccurate.
It wasn't inaccurate.
That she was
In
not-
an executive session, I'll show you the email that she sent. Okay, so let's not go there.
You mean, who sent?
All
Your
right,
wife sent
we'll
or-
talk about it in
not
executive
go there.
session.
Okay, are we going to vote on
Whoa.
the business?
Well, let's just.
Transportation?
Let's see where we are. We're gonna get a motion, we're discussing whether or not we're gonna approve this.
Okay.
Last meeting, in a public session, you made a comment about a consultant. That was incorrect.
It wasn't incorrect.
All right, so then we're gonna need to go back and talk about it, because if it is correct, then we need to take action. But we went to executive session, and you were told that it was incorrect. This is the first I'm hearing of it. This is really important, Dan. I treat this budget like it's my own money. I'm not interested in spending money on people unless they're delivering results, whether it's a performance contract or a contractor. But if you're making accusations, we need to stick by it.
I am not making accusations.
You did. All right,
Well-
Can we
with
stick
that said,
this contract and vote on it?
yep, do we have a motion to approve the transportation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, all right, so forever.
Alyssa?
Alyssa,
Aye, sorry.
any nays? All right, so we got it 7-0. Good. That's it for agenda. I'm sorry this has taken so long. It just it gets a little frustrating when we go back over the same things. But let's do a happy note. I got a note from Miss Greco, who's in charge of the yearbook. I sent a note out to the board, and I suggested we do a full-page ad. We'll all chip in. This is coming, it's not coming out of our budget, it's coming out of our money. And anything we have left over for whatever the full-page ad is, we'll give someone, they could choose to use it any way they want, if that's okay with you guys. I was thinking maybe Jonathan could write something up for us, or best wishes, good luck from the Board of Education of Tuxedo. Tuxedo proud. Anybody have anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, can I make a comment, this free comment
Yeah.
section? Okay, so we were in the Historical Society for a few days or a couple of times, and we saw that the school, the whole entire school, the lower school, the upper school, all the teachers, all the workers of the school got together on the front steps and would take a picture, and it happened every year. And everybody looked great. They wore their cute little outfits that they would wear for picture day, and it looks awesome. I don't think we've done it since the 1970s.
Mr. Matt, you may be the only person here
And
who would know
past.
this.
But I'm saying that maybe we can organize that and start redoing that, because that would be great to have, you know, within the school, also at the Historical Society, but also to, so that we could document everybody who is here every year.
That's a great idea.
So stay on it, please. Okay.
All right, so you can give me the money after the meeting, not during the meeting.
Always about the money.
All right, now we have a presentation. Now we're up.
Yes, now we're up to the budget presentation. We've got Mr. Anthony Kashara, who is going to talk about the remaining portion of the draft. We have until April 20th, next Thursday, board meeting, where the board will be adopting the budget. And once the budget is adopted, it's a lock.
So this is right now the superintendent's budget. Until we approve it, then it becomes the board's.
Do we have a section where, like, people can call up and ask any questions? Because this was posted on the site, right?
Yeah.
Are Are you going to ask the public to talk
I
after this?
wasn't planning it, but we could do that.
Oh.
I mean, if you want to, somebody wants to text the question in, I'd be happy to do it.
Sure.
Who should we have them text it? Matt?
They don't even know Matt's text
Well,
phone.
They could- they
He's
could
gonna give
em-
his
they could
phone
email.
number out to the
No, we could do
public.
an email or something like that, or perhaps we can do it through the system. Is there a way of, if someone has a question? I don't know.
Okay, I was just curious. What
Well,
was
you
happening?
raised the thing, so,
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm wasting time. Okay.
hold
let him
it, hold
go.
it. We may be able to have people.
Oh, Bevan's saying there's going to be some technical difficulties with that. Oh, you're ready? Okay, good.
There's no way we have set up right now to get the public to talk to you at this moment, but we're ready for the presentation.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so we can't do it, basically.
We can't right now, no.
Okay. Also, Anthony, is there any changes to what you told the audit committee? Is there any change in the data or the information?
Not from yesterday, no.
Okay.
No.
It was yesterday.
From the last meeting, there were
Yeah.
some
So
moderate
this is what
changes.
we received today. Yeah.
Yep, and everyone has both the PowerPoint on the board level and a detail was hopefully sent to the portal where you can see budget code by budget code, who's in it. We tried to be as transparent as possible with if we're taking grant money to help fund a certain item. And this is the meat of what our business is, the instruction part of the budget we're covering tonight, all the way through the end of the budget, which includes employee benefits for such people and district staff, debt service, and interfund transfers. Teaching staff, 2110 is just a statewide coding system for everything from grade level teachers, math specialists, AIS, all those staff members, and again, the people are listed here. UPK is also provided for by the district. That's in here. We do get an offset on UPK of $75,000. The state does contribute on that front. A modest increase in that part of the budget, as you can see, partly because we're offsetting some of the costs to the tune of $75,600 with UPK funds for teaching regular schools. The special education budget is growing at a larger percentage. It has included within it a contingency, and the contingency is for a residential placement. So again, you can see in your budget detail that this is both education and residential costs that's included there. We may not have it, those costs, but there is some feeling that we may need to use that contingent position.
So contingency means maybe.
Contingency,
public.
right, yeah, it's closer than we have no knowledge of any possible need, yeah.
Right.
Which could also, I guess, be a
It's
contingency.
just in case it happens.
Yes, just in case, but, we did grow, we're increasing the number of slots at BOCES for OCED. More opportunities for our kids, so now we'll have 9 slots that are funded for next year. Also, one of them is gonna be in an afternoon slot, which normally wouldn't matter, but it's gonna increase our transportation costs because that's a midday run going over to Orange Ulster BOCES. We do have and have had expenses for summer school. I don't know if these are for kids getting course credits, but we hadn't included money in the previous budget. We put $10,000 in there, maybe more than we need when all is said and done, but it is there if the need occurs for 2 stipends provided for ELA and/or math. So again, that part of the budget's up 6.5%. As we start looking at the whole budget, this is our main business, but you can see really that the 2250 code is assuming most of that increase and the OCED. School library and computer assisted instruction, and these are all state codes. That's why we're kind of going through this order of things. It's kind of how we report it to the state. There's a reduction of 1 monitor position. Oh, let me actually go back here. There was also one reduction here in a monitor position in regular schools. So 2110, that's another reason why that budget wasn't as much. So there are 2 FTE reductions in the budget for monitors. 1 here and 1 in the library. This also includes computer assisted instruction that and a plan for installment purchase agreement. The person who's, Paul Caputo, who's helping us with our technology plan, kind of mentioned some of the antiquity that we have with some of our technology, which also leaves us a little potentially vulnerable. This would upgrade all of our end units, upgrade our computers, copiers, give us a more robust infrastructure. But included within the budget is the first year of a 5-year plan, $35,000 a year. So we do feel that it will be fairly flat going forward, but that's what the increase is for this year, is really that, getting that IPA in place. And again, the detail as to what's in the IPA is also there, and I don't know if Paul would be available to speak on that also, Jeff, maybe at the next meeting, or?
Bevan is,
Paul's on right now.
he's on, okay.
Okay, so if there's any questions or
Paul?
whatever you want to do.
Can you hear us?
Paul Caputo.
I am here.
Paul, is there anything you want to say about the IPA that Anthony hasn't mentioned?
So, I did give you guys a memo earlier about some of this stuff. Part of what my goal is here is for us to have a very standardized size budget, so we don't have the peaks and valleys in IT, where it's kind of consistent amount each year. There's been a number of equipment that's been out there that is antiquated and is vulnerable to cyber attack. And we made tremendous strides over the past year in hardening. It's called hardening our infrastructure. There are a couple things left to do, and that's what this IPA addresses.
Paul, we didn't get a chance to talk to you yesterday. There is some big increases in the budget in some areas of benefits, areas of special ed. This is a big jump. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
this is a 60,000, 70,000. If we were to say to you, we can't do the 60,000, and you had to prioritize, let's say we said to you, we could do 35,000. What would be some of the things that you would have the least priority?
So, unfortunately, because of our infrastructure, the copiers have to be the top priorities. They're 10 to 15 years old. We've seen a huge increase in cyber-related crime coming through the copiers because they have an older operating system. And because they're connected to our network, it's an entryway into it. So that has to be the top priority. Secondly, for the Chromebooks, we are in the second year of a 3-year replacement plan for the Chromebooks for our students. I would hate to take out anything out of the hands of our students. The teacher laptops, if we need to wait another year, that's one of the potential things that we can cut this year, the laptops and the monitors. We are purchasing half of the laptops out of the 22-23 budget. We can certainly, if we need to wait that out another year, that may be something that we can wait out as well. We're in a board meeting. I'd love to have a backup camera for our board meetings in case the camera that is being used for the public, it's a very small expenditure, happens to go bad, as equipment tends to do at the worst possible point. The VMware upgrade is also very important. This past year, we upgraded all of our server architecture. The version of VMware we have is no longer supported. If we were going to renew the maintenance for that, it's going to come close to the price of the actual upgrade. So it makes more sense to upgrade it. We're not going to have to worry about it over the course of the next 5 years. We'll have that included within this IPA. So that includes our VMware maintenance. VMware is the operating system that our servers use to keep track of other servers, in short. So those are the most important items. Part of the issue with the district is, over the course of time, equipment has to be changed, right? It breaks, there's support that is no longer available for it. We're working towards getting that normalization, as it's called, the normalization of hardware, right? Where we know at the end of 5 years, we're gonna need to buy 14 more laptops for the faculty. We know at the end of this 3-year cycle, we're gonna have to start rebuilding, purchasing Chromebooks, or whatever the next great thing is, right, in education. If you look 5 years back, you probably wouldn't have a one-to-one type of scenario that we have now. Certainly nobody predicted COVID and all that is brought out, which has really changed the paradigm of education. It's changed the paradigm of instructional education over the course of years. So in 5 years, we may say, we don't want Chromebooks, we want this next thing that's coming out. One of the beauties of technology is the cost pretty much always stays the same. Now, what you get is larger, right? So case in point, 5 years ago, we could have bought whatever the latest computer system was then at the same cost. Right now, we get more technology for the same amount of money. So everything there is very, very, very important. If you asked me to take something out and wait a year, it would probably be the faculty notebooks, because we can squeak out another year of those. But I will be back next year asking for them again, as well as, our plan is to look at the systems that the staff has that also needs to be replaced. So it'll come back around next year, and that budget will have to go through at that point.
We can quantify that for the next meeting, what that means as
May
a
I
board decision.
Also,
As well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
okay, hi, Paul. So
Hi.
a few things. One is that, I don't know if everybody else on the board has a Chromebook that was issued by the school, but I do, that's sitting at home. And so I would recommend that we don't issue them to the board, because I think we don't use them in our meetings. We each have a laptop of our own at home. So that could be a potential savings, or those could be passed along to children. They seem to be in good working order. Secondly, is that I would like to suggest that on the printer side, that we don't have all color printers.
I'm sorry, I can't hear your question. You're breaking up. If you can.
Okay, how's that?
If you can,
Thanks.
Is that better? Are you able to hear me now, Paul?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
My
go ahead.
first comment / question was that we all on the board, I believe, have school-issued Chromebooks that we don't necessarily need, that those could be as a savings to and reissued to students.
Right.
Okay, so that's,
So what she's suggesting, unless somebody's using that Chromebook, we all turn our Chromebooks back.
I would say, I would love to get rid of that Chromebook. I have the biggest problem with my personal devices in this building connecting to the school's Wi-Fi. I think I'm not the only one, but
yeah, I can't connect
if we
anything.
can address that issue,
Yes.
I'll give that Chromebook back in 2 seconds. And I would prefer to use my own.
You have an
'Cause I don't
answer?
like,
Bevan will help with all
Okay.
this, yeah.
At home, I have all of the material on my computer. So when I'm home, I do use it.
Make an exception.
And
Yeah,
I'm-
it's an option. I mean, I need it, I
I
would
don't need
return it, and so maybe it can be an optional
Yeah.
thing, and we can.
Bringing mine in
Smart.
next
Okay, great.
bucks.
Into from a security perspective though, a lot of the things that we get are Microsoft Office, and we have to download those onto our devices. So I would encourage our team to think about shipping any files that they send to us to be within Google Cloud or within the Google Suite, so that we can, on the back end, be able to track how much is being downloaded, how much is being kind of forwarded outside of our network, just from a IT security perspective. So I would love for us to be able to look into that before we say, great, we're going to be using our own devices, just from a district security perspective.
And even though I'm in the company of 2 attorneys, I'm probably going to suggest that we call David Shaw as well, because
Yeah, I was
some of the
thinking-
stuff can be subpoenaed.
Yeah, subpoenas and FOIL requests, and it's easier just to hand them the laptop. And
Well, if everybody's using their personal laptops, it doesn't do you much good. If you have it on, as Alyssa says, that takes care of that problem. Paul, can we make a protocol where we secure these documents as they're going out?
So BYOD is tricky, right? Especially in the school district. We have Ed Law 2D concerns that we gotta make sure we address. We got safety concerns to our students that we make sure we address. We certainly can do it from a technical perspective. As a matter of fact, in our technology plan next year, we're gonna be looking at the wireless network district-wide. At that point, what we can do is create a completely separate, it's called a VLAN, virtual LAN, that is meant for BYOD, that keeps our district resources safe, as well as the people who bring their own devices. So that is something we certainly can do. It's not something that we can do with a flip of a button. It's something that needs to be planned out. And we certainly have to have policies in place for BYOD, bring your own device.
Correct.
And that's the key, right? From a technical perspective, yeah, we absolutely can do it. We can absolutely make sure it's safe and secure. We also need to make sure that we're compliant with Ed Law 2D when we do it, and we're compliant with state mandates. Other districts have done it. We certainly could too. But that would be something that we would have to look at, more in depth.
Yeah, the thing I'm just pushing on is it will take time to build that out, so before we hand in our devices, at least we put the plan together to build that out at whatever certain point in time. We just wanna make sure that we're being responsible with the documents and the information that we're getting, and it's knowing it's on personal devices, and so really the access to it is.
I mean,
is
the risk you talk about, Alyssa, exists today because we all access these documents on our
On our
personal
phone.
devices, so.
Yeah, it's something that we need to address, whether we turn in our devices or not,
So it's not
right?
mutually exclusive, we can do both. All right, go
So
ahead.
it sounds like this is something that we should work on as a group and with the help of Paul. The second thing I wanted to address here with the purchase plan is that, like, looking into our resources is, I've felt like we should be, obviously we need printers across the district and they need to be safe and secure, absolutely, and there's been a huge strides in what the printers can do and everything like that, and we definitely want those to be secure, but I don't know that we need a whole lot of color printers. This is a hot button topic for me. I think that it's very expensive to print in color. It's not necessary for most things, and so many things we can think about as digital first and reduce our printing. It is a big cost savings. I would say that everybody who works in an office is seeing that as well, with a reduction in printing is a priority.
And is there any way that we can sell our printers?
Yes.
Or,
Yeah,
and the other thing about the computers, like, I mean, the whole thing about the buses that we had, the issue years ago, was that, all of a sudden we needed 20 new buses, and how are we gonna pay for 20 new buses all at once? Whereas we didn't have a staggered thing, buying 3 buses every year, 3 new buses. With the computers, could we do something where it's like, X grade gets a new set of computers, then the following year, this other grade gets a new set of computers, that we're staggering the purchasing of the computers over, so it's
Wasn't
not
that
one
what-
big,
That's actually exactly what we're doing here.
okay,
That's the
Okay.
purpose of the IPA, right?
all right.
So what we're gonna do is, the payments will be a steady stream every year, and every year, like, when we feel like the IPA will be petering out, we'll replace it with another one. So we'll try to
Okay.
keep the stream of money constant.
I wanted to
And
make
that's
sure we
35.
captured Heather's point, that not every one of these things have to be full color. It's 4 cents a page.
They're not.
Okay,
We're only
Thank
getting
you.
like 3 colors. The rest are all black and whites.
okay. So that's smart, because it's really, I notice everything we
Like
get.
2 for the high school because of the printing amount, 1 here in the elementary school, and the elementary's getting an additional black and white to go upstairs. to
Yeah,
be able to help.
the issue on I used to be an expert on this, on the security issue, it's not the printers as much of an issue, it's the MFPs where they have hard drives, people don't realize, in the So you have somebody who just came out of prison and they just went in and now servicing your computer. They take that hard drive out and they have every record that's ever been printed, personnel records, student records, health records, whatever. So every manufacturer at this point has that capability, and it's just got to be aware of it. You know, where the points of entry can be. There's probably 5 or 6 points of entry that you can get into these systems. You probably know this very well, but it's probably a good idea to get these things secured.
Yeah.
And if we're destroying devices, or however we're making sure that that's tight, because there's a number of large organizations that find that their equipment that they discarded was sold on eBay, and there's confidential information and all that gets out.
Any hardware equipment that we have with technology, we contact a certain recycler for rentals for BOCES, and they come in and they make sure they get rid of everything and they give.
But just make sure on the copy machines that you're including the hard drive in the copy.
They always wipe out the hard drive.
Okay.
Well,
It's
we'll
not a
make
copy
that
machine, it's an MFP.
Yeah, well, they're all copiers, but you're correct, they are multifunction printers.
They're all digital devices, they're not analog anymore.
Okay, not to belabor the point, but could we do one color printer per school?
I was going to suggest the same thing.
He said
Yeah, two in the high school, there's one here in the middle school.
So
She's saying one.
She's saying
suggesting
one
one in the high school.
Whatever they choose, I don't care, whatever.
So you mean Dolores has to walk over to the other school?
No, one
One
here and one
here.
there.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I got it. All right, good stuff, that's good, good stuff, I like it.
All right, so
Running
we'll
a
give you
tight
some
ship.
options going into the next meeting on this and what that would mean if we.
Probably just save this money, just by. having
Right.
a
There's a
conversation.
few other budget lines that have been discussed that we'll probably include in options and so on, so. Okay. Anything else for Paul as we kind of say goodbye to him?
No,
Okay. Thanks, Paul.
thank you. If you guys need anything, let me know. Thank you for having me tonight, and really appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Do I have control again, or?
Matt, did we capture his point about making sure that everybody can get on? There was a commitment, I think, from Bevan and then from him, that they're gonna help people get on, they can use their computers here without, yeah.
Okay. The next part of the budget, again, staying with the state budgeting codes, pupil personnel services, guidance, health, psychology. The real growth here is 2 areas. TPS has requested something that they're entitled to, which is some nursing services, and it's an issue under the law of equity based on number of children. We've included enough to fund a part-time nurse at TPS. They could obviously subsidize that for the rest of the day if they so desire, but that additional money is in the budget. So that's, and also last year, I know you upgraded your psychological position. It wasn't reflected in the budget, but now it is reflected in the budget. So budget to budget, there's not a big change, but obviously, I mean, budget to budget's a large change, but not estimated expenses to budget.
Can I ask a question on 2810?
Sure.
The guidance services, I'm not sure that do we have a guidance counselor in the elementary school?
No.
No.
I would think after
They-
everything that went on with
I think, Dan,
and all that.
that was a reduction many years ago. There was one here in the high school and one in the elementary school, but I think when Greenwood Lake left, the district had downsized the staff to 1.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I'm not sure, but why, could you explain to us why, if TPS is a private school, why does the public school need to pay for the private school to have a nurse, and their students are paying to go to that
Right.
school, and probably their students don't even live here? So why are we paying for them?
Well, thank you for the question, and there are certain areas in the law, and it's kind of been a way to get resources to non-public students legally. One is transportation, and health services is written into the law as something that you're not really, we're providing health services to the students, not education. It's kind of how the law, how this, I'm not even going to say a loophole, how this avenue is out there. We can bill back any students that are at TPS who are non-residents, we can bill back a portion of this cost. And we are going to, and, you know, so that'll be a
New
slight
York-
offset to this.
New York
but-
residents, right, Anthony? 'Cause
Yes,
there's
New York
some New
residents, right,
Jersey
New
folks
Jersey.
over there that we can't,
Yeah, and
we can't
obviously,
bill
the,
them.
and
Yeah.
obviously the Tuxedo kids, so, you know, there might be about less than half of the kids that we can actually bill back for part of this cost. So, but it's no different than the textbooks, software, library, those are all, you know, kind of these creations that have stood up to legal challenges.
So
of
you're saying
public
if,
money to
like, say
non-public
two
schools.
other private schools moved into our area,
Oh, yeah.
we would be responsible and have to pay for their medical and as well as their transportation. Well, we
Yeah,
know the transportation, but I
On an
wasn't
equitable
aware of.
basis, right, on an equitable
And our
basis.
title grants as well.
Right, and they do get a piece now. They aren't getting our Title I, that's more based on need, but they are entitled to it's a total of about $4,000, $4,500 between Title II and Title IV. So again, there's things built into some of those federal monies that you have to have equitable sharing with non-public students. I know some of these things have ended up in the courts, and they've held up with the separation of church and state and everything else, and public funding of non-publics, and even religious. It wouldn't matter if this was a religious school, it would still be the same.
Thank you.
You got it. We have a list in your separate document of all the co-curricular that are funded and interscholastic in this budget. When you look at the estimated expenses, it's just kind of a quirk in our accounting system. Until we physically pay the spring stipends, they're not there, but we know we're not going to spend the budget in co-curricular or interscholastic because sometimes we cannot field the team, or the club does not have enough enrollment. So we will come in less than the budget, but it's not going to be the numbers you see there. But obviously, we are looking at a growth here. There are also summer programs that were included at the request of the athletic director as kind of a feeder program. I hope it give kids not only things to do, but may also increase the number of kids we ultimately have on our teams. One positive of our meeting with TPS is we may be able to do a little bit more sharing with sports, so we can maybe do a little bit more with a combination of kids on that front. District transportation services stands out because it's one of the few numbers that are a minus. Partly discussed earlier in making sure we only pay for what we need from the outside contractor, that we're not paying for buses that are not required for our need. It's another case where there was an increase. We do have to put a nurse on one of our buses for a student with some health needs. And you have the breakdown. We do have employees still from when we were district operated. This looks at both the contract cost, the district employee cost, and the nurse. We have three drivers that are district employees. All the buses are owned by the outside contractor. We have one vehicle. It's not on a regular route. It's kind of just used for, a kid here and there, or if a spare is needed on a rare case. So this is one that we want to make sure we can effectuate that savings, and we might be able to do more in the out years with some efficiencies there. Employee benefits, few things. We show you the different rates we pay. ERS are your civil servants. TRS are any certificated staff, including administrators. Our TRS system, everybody pays Social Security. Workers' comp, we dropped it because we think long-term our rates are going to drop and have less. And we are taking a little bit from the reserve to help offset some of that. We do have a buyback for health insurance, but only half a dozen, actually a little more than that. It's $1,500, so you can kind of figure out how many people are availing themselves of that. And do realize the hospital medical, we did pull out the dental because that is to a different vendor, and it's a union-run benefit plan for dental, vision, and life. Hospital and medical, as I pointed out in one of our first meetings, that number is as much for retired as it is for active, and that is something that obviously has to be on our radar going forward. So that is a growing area. The average health increase on the Orange Ulster plan is 4.5%, but family is going up more, individual less, and the Medicare and retirees have a different increase rate too.
Do you think if we up the health insurance buyback amount, we may save on health insurance? I mean,
Yeah.
$1,500 is not a very big incentive, but if you offered someone
Yeah.
$5,000 to take their spouse's insurance, you'd save much more than that. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't see a downside to that.
I don't know if we could do almost a little survey with being a fairly small district to kind of get our arms around it, so it's not a theoretical discussion.
Yeah, I mean, if you upped it and there was no uptake in,
Yeah.
you know, the 15 people that are doing it, it would cost you
Yeah.
a fortune more. But
Right.
it'd be
Well,
nice
you
to-
could even, obviously, if you're giving a benefit, you can condition it. You can say, if we get 20, it'll be this. And then when you get 19, there'll be a lot of pressure for that 20th. But, so you can condition it if it's a, kind of a one-sided benefit being offered.
Anthony, would you
Yeah.
work with Marco to get a survey out
Yeah.
so we can get the
Yeah.
answer to
We'll
that?
get there at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, we can easily survey ourselves. I mean, obviously,
Yeah, if
you know,
could
people
bring
have to
that-
be,
If you could bring the 2.6 million down.
Oh,
even
yeah.
A fractional amount.
I want to say 27,000, but I want to.
So 10 more people would save 270,000.
Oh, yeah, I mean, this is not insignificant. They do contribute 11% to 13% now, but very much I want to be able to speak more
We just have a-
specifically to
If
this.
we had more people on insurance, would it be cheaper? Oh,
No, probably not.
like we
And also-
couldn't just ask people in the community if they wanted to join our insurance? Or
No,
we're
you
not
can't.
allowed to do
No,
that
can't do
anyway?
that, no.
They would be lined up around the building.
I know, I would join.
Yeah.
But
Well,
this is something.
actually, board members can join.
Yeah, but for
that's-
2 years.
that's in the law.
I
We've
mean-
been talking about this for
Yeah.
how many years? We
Yeah.
really need to get the data and the information on it, what the impacts would be. So
Yeah, just work
this is
with
something-
Marco,
Yeah.
get a survey out and,
Yeah.
Maybe this is something you can give our new business official,
Yeah, well,
This shouldn't be that complicated.
it's not. Yeah. Are you legally able, and this is a question, can we legally provide a bigger buyout to a family plan? I don't know if we can.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I think that would be a problem too, because obviously that's where yeah. Gotcha, you can't differentiate the buyout.
You know what, I
Oh,
want to
just-
remember this. We're gonna stay on you on this one. We really should get the facts on this. How many people would be interested in doing it?
Sure.
Yeah,
It shouldn't be that complicated.
no, it's not, that's one of our, and the one, I mean, we're just talking about active versus retirees, obviously if they're never on the plan, they can't take it as a retiree. So that's also a kind of a spillover benefit if
Yep.
we get less people on the plan.
Okay,
And there would have to be a contract. I mean, if they dropped the plan in September, we gave them the money for it, and then they're like, oh, I gotta go back on the plan in December. How do we get our money back?
Well,
Or
I do
what
believe it is
happened?
paid, they can re-up at the open enrollment period, that's per law, and we do pay throughout the year, so some people are coming on and off during the year. Yeah, so we would, same would apply here, but yes, anybody would be able to, on open enrollment, switch from one to the other.
okay.
Okay. It's the first year that we're paying off the benefit of the EPC. The work has been primarily completed. About $1.2 million, actually a little bit more than that of work.
1.4 almost,
1.4,
Anthony, yeah.
thank you. And it's being paid back over time. We are going to realize offsets on both maintenance costs and utilities. We did lower utilities, but in the first year, it's not a one-for-one. And it really is one of those things you got to be dogged in following up on, because energy costs go up, so you might not see your bill go down as much as you would hope, but it would have gone up greater. So it's, again, one of those things you got to kind of be vigilant with Honeywell on that issue.
Is our loan there a variable rate loan?
No,
No.
fixed.
Are they required to give us reporting?
Yes.
So we get this every,
You do.
Every year.
But it's a little bit, I'm just be candid, it's a little bit of the fox and the chicken coop. You almost need another set of eyes to look at their data.
Yeah, I know.
Just to, so,
so the board would get this.
That's right.
yeah.
Yep.
But they're gonna
Okay.
skew it.
We're looking forward.
Magically, it always works in there. So, this is money, again, we have multiple funds in the district. The voters vote on the general fund. But there are other operations we run, they're separately accounted for. The school lunch fund, we had a little bit of discussion on this tonight. The general fund is contributing $10,000 to that. If you go back a few years in your budget document, I think there was a year it was over $100,000 that was going into that fund, and definitely one year at $50,000.
Last year.
Yeah, so that's obviously, the goal is that it becomes self-sufficient. It's gonna be a little tougher with a smaller population base. Special aid fund, this is really another special ed area. It's the extended school year. Any child that has a July and August program, and these are not the kids who are in district, they're usually the kids in out-of-district placements. Their IEPs in almost every case allow for an ESY if the parents avail themselves of it. The state does contribute 80%, but this is our 20% share, and you'll see that cost alone is $224,000. Our share is $44,008. We came in well over budget this year and adjusted that. Capital funds, this is, again, $70,000 of new funds is being proposed for various projects. The $2 million estimated expense has not been spent yet. It's just, again, been transferred, accounting-wise. So the general fund has now gotten those funds over to the capital fund. It's available to be used. And I know you have a separate proposition to talk about how you want to spend some of those
Jeff,
funds.
could you just explain this, because I got a call this morning, and I know the person's on because that person just texted me about the 2 million, because it was a little confusing on the budget. They were saying, where did 2 million come from?
Oh, sure. So the $2 million is in a separate fund right now. It's in a capital reserve fund. And one of the propositions on the budget this year, on the vote, I'm sorry, did you want to say?
Well, I just want to say, last year, the voters approved setting up that capital reserve.
I'm trying to remember my years, Anthony. I
It
think
might have
it
been
was
2
set up
years
the year
ago.
before I got here.
Yeah.
And
2
then,
years ago.
And then last year, we determined how we would spend it.
Right.
Right? And then
Yeah.
due to Tuxedo Farms, we're going to put a prop up to reallocate how we spend it.
Exactly.
So, so that's from the capital reserve from prior years.
And kind of the reason I mentioned that, the district cannot spend money on capital without voter approval.
Right.
Unless there's an emergency.
And when we
that's a whole
send the
different thing.
materials out to the public, we really got to make this clear, because it could be confusing. It's not
Right.
new money, it's the same money we have, we're just reallocating it.
Correct. And the architect just completed the visual inspection report, and it's been uploaded, sent to SED. We obviously have a lot of deferred maintenance that we have to deal with. It's a significant amount of money, so that's why what we were starting to do is to build up the annual transfer to capital, which is the 9950 code. So the 2 million is out of the capital fund. The 70,000 is proposed to come out of the general fund. So we would take 70,000 of the general fund, move it to the capital fund, and it would be used for those purposes. So actually, Anthony, we have to change the wording on it. It's just panic alarm system.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Right.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
I did, I did it on mine. and-
Yeah, so what happened, just so everyone knows, remember, we spoke to Senator Skoufis, was giving us $75,000. We did speak to them, and they said that DASNY, the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, won't allow the $75,000 to be spent on the panic alarm, so they'll allow us to use it to build the vestibules in the two buildings. So we're going to move that money into that bucket, and we're going to be putting the panic alarm here. And whatever excess money is left, we'll also put that into the vestibules. So we really want to get, with all the violence that's been happening, we're trying to secure the buildings.
I know this isn't budget related, but we're not gonna be creating a situation where a first responder couldn't get into the building in an emergency, right? Like,
No.
lock it down so much that you prevent.
No, there's ways for them to get in, Bill. I don't want to, I'll tell you privately, but there's ways for them to get in. And we have that in place right now. And we're going to be putting other things in place to help them as well. All right, so we'll be working with the state emergency services group for all that.
Okay, summary of, we've really had 3 nights where we've talked about budget, because initially we talked about the tax levy and the tax cap.
And the
These are kind
revenue.
of the numbers as far as budget growth right now. And right now, the tax levy is 3.1% increase. The tax rate, which is really what affects the homeowners more directly, we're hoping to have an estimate at the next meeting with the additional assessments. But, and again, this is all fluid and all based on final decisions.
Yeah, and see where it says the grand total?
Yep.
Budget versus the 15 million, I think that's where the confusion was. The $2 million is in that number.
Is that estimated? Sure. Yeah, it's just, you either,
We should pull that out, because
it's really an accounting.
Yeah, let's pull it out of there, because it's confusing.
It is confusing, and it's been previously approved by the voters.
And
We
it's not-
are
and-
not overspending the budget.
And it's not going to be spent out of the, out of the general fund anyway. It's
No.
going to be spent out of the capital fund.
Right.
So let's pull it out.
Right, and by the way, also in that estimated expense is the 230,000 for the tax cert, which also came out of a reserve, because it flowed through the budget.
Correct, that's right.
So really, there's $2.3 million in that estimated expense that was really reserves coming through the budget. You can't write a check from the tax cert reserve, because that's simple. So you have to run it through the budget to get the check out the door. So that's kind of why the accounting is the way it is. So that's it, and next Thursday night will be, I guess you're going to do the BOCES budget, and we're going to have to finalize this at that same night, because the reporting is due the next day.
So I just want to say that I want to thank the Finance and Audit Committee who met before this meeting as they do, to go over the budget and look for they ask a lot of questions. It was at least, I believe, a 2-hour conversation that we had, Heather, around that. A lot of great questions, and also pointing about areas where we might have to pare back, should the need arise.
Yeah,
So
let me-
next,
if I can just, and you guys correct me if we really need to know what the tax rate is. Obviously, that's what everybody's looking for. We asked, our 3 of us, as a recommendation, not as a mandate or whatever, that you would-
Guideline, yeah.
Guideline, yeah, that you would have backup, if in fact we had to do some things to the budget, you
Yep.
would have things laid out for the full board, so that we could take a look at it and prioritize it and
Okay.
discuss it. But I personally, I would not want to approve anything until I saw the tax rate. And
Are
if
we voting on this next week?
yes,
Yes.
to adopt the budget.
So if anybody in the public has any questions, they need to get it
Yeah.
in this week.
Yes,
And the issue that's going to come up is the tax rate is really what you pay, in other words, on your taxes. So if we really need to have that. We don't, in the past, I think we've always had it, but we don't have it now, so.
yeah.
And that's a
And-
regular meeting, right?
but
So you'll have
remember-
public input on
But
that.
remember, folks, that we're going to be getting a tentative roll. It's not final.
Yeah.
So remember, last year, we projected that the tax rate would be for Tuxedo, town of Tuxedo residents would be 0.98, and then it came in, it was, I think, 0.6 something. It was
yeah,
less than
5.
Yeah,
that.
but our tax
So-
assessor is very conservative. I think we can take I think a roughly right, unless someone has an objection.
Yeah, no, Joe, I agree with you. I just want to make sure that people understand that. Because I don't want them to say, well, you said it was going to be this number, and I want to be in that
Well,
number.
nobody complained when it went down.
Yeah, you're right.
It's only going to
Not
be a
yet.
problem if that's why he's pretty conservative.
Yeah. As well, because there's a small portion of the district that's in the town of Warwick.
Do you need any help from us to go to the assessor or?
No, I spoke to the assessor again today, and he's trying to get this thing wrapped up before our meeting. Technically, they don't have to have this thing until like early May.
Oh, do they?
right?
I'm not
So,
even sure what their
so
timeframe is.
he's really doing the best he can he knows what constraints we're under. He's doing the best that he can. So we'll hopefully have something next week. But again, it's a tentative roll. It's not the final roll. So,
Any comments from the board or anything?
I have a question. So we're not having a summer school this summer.
Oh, no, we're having a, no, that's in the budget under 2330
No,
code.
but that was just for,
Reme-
it's not, okay.
Well, it's whatever, right now it's $10,000. I don't, we haven't hired anyone, so. the
Yeah.
last
So
one was
what
for
is it?
remedial.
Is it gonna, it'll be math and English, and for kids that,
That's what it was last year.
let's,
Right.
That's what it was
let's
last
send our kids here, and then they could be picked up by the town camp after class?
I don't know what the parameters were.
Yeah, he's the guy you have to.
Yeah.
So, right, the transportation consultant helped us and worked it out where
Sorry,
we
Anthony.
had, the town offered a summer school program last year. I think they were hoping to do it this year. I don't know whether, they're going to. I know I'm gonna meet tomorrow with the new camp director, the town camp director, so I'll know a little bit more tomorrow. So I don't know what the program's gonna be, but we are offering remedial summer school. That's in the 2330 codes. that
Okay,
you'll see.
good. That was the $10,000 that I saw.
Yeah, that's right.
Right,
And
okay.
we don't, and obviously, it's an estimate because we don't know which kids are, or if anybody is gonna fail a course or whatever, so we just put that in there as a, just in case.
There was also
Okay,
money
good.
put in for sports clinic or whatever in the summer, which we had, Heather identified for the summer as well.
Right, that's right, yeah. Marco put that in there, correct. Any other questions or anything? Everybody happy with the, with the information? Is there anything else that you need for next week? I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna provide you with the budget and our best estimate about what the tax rate will be. And we'll also have a Chinese menu if you feel that you want to reduce the expenditure budget at all. We'll have things for you to choose from where you can say, take that out, take this out. But we really did try to keep, which the goal was to stay within the tax cap.
Yeah, also, question to the board. The original document we had that we were given was for the board only. It's confidential because you got people's salaries in there and benefits and such, so.
And reductions in
Yeah, so we,
staff.
obviously, we gotta be really careful with that because some of it did leak.
Yeah.
So
What,
gotta be
papers
really-
in here?
Yeah, there's some stuff in there.
Yeah, so just be really careful who you're showing it to and whatever, yeah.
All right,
You mentioned you'll have a list of things in case we want to pull something out.
Yeah.
yes.
Can you do the opposite as well?
Sure.
If we were to say hypothetically, we found $100,000, where is it most needed?
Yes, Gary, we'll do that as well. I just want to also say to you, though, that unless we pull, at this juncture, if we find anything else, we'll let you know. This is a moving target. Every day we're getting new information, but if we do find some area for, we can add something, that's great. But if there's something that the board wants to add, and you want to stay within that tax constraint that we have, we'll have to pull something out. So there'll be some decisions.
I don't know
to
if you
be made.
mentioned it, the cap is 3.1, which is where we are.
The levy. And remember, the public doesn't vote on a tax rate. They don't vote on a tax levy. They vote on the expenditures, right? The spending plan or the investment plan, if you would rather be, silver lining.
Great.
Anything? We're all good?
All right, if there's nothing else, can I have a motion to
Thank you,
adjourn?
Anthony.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? No? Thank you.